Hello, all of you risk takers and truth seekers to Podcast Life to Battlefield. Today we're gonna talk about conspiracy theories, and I love talking about conspiracy theories. Well, you know what the difference is between the conspiracy and the truth? Time. That's the only difference it is. Time will tell. But let's go talk today about climate weapons. Are they real or the stuff of conspiracy theories and urban legends? But that being said, my name is Bekes. I'm the Guinness World Record holder in continuous broadcasting 55 plus hours. My background, it is 14 years in military security intelligence services. I spent as well 1,500 consecutive combat days in war and diplomatic intelligence. Hence why I like to talk about conspiracy theories. Today we're going to talk about climate weapons, and we all know that there's so much buzz on the internet. What is in space, who sprays what, but since the entire world has been affected by weather events characterized by high temperatures on one side and heavy precipitation on the other, lunacy has reigned among conspiracy theorists, and many of them talk about climate weapons and climate terrorism that can harm the planet, people, or specific countries. Is it true? Let me know in the comment section below. Such weapons development has been ongoing for decades, and these projects have consumed enormous funds, hinting that they still exist as endeavours. But where do you draw the line between fantasy, science, and the fact? And I am in favor of the fact. That is my life, that is my work. Is administration trying to hide something? Let's go talk about this one. Any administration. Some people talk about weather cannons as if anybody can build them to produce showers or droughts, while others talk seriously about climate attacks or geophysical weapons. Even if there is no evidence that everything that happens in atmosphere is caused by employment of such weapons. There were few instances that stick out. So hear me out. Number one, the Popeye project. I remember the cartoon Popeye Oliver. So far, it's safe to say that weather has been only changed once with the intention of causing military and political harm to the enemy. The American Army carried out Operation Popeye in Vietnam from 1967 till 1972, when I was born. Military transport planes sprinkled silver iodide between the clouds during the rainy season, causing more rain to fall. In 1966, neighboring Laos developed this technology, which was later used in combat against the Viet Cong. Operation Popeye was a top-secret weather modification attempt at the time that resulted in the monsoon period being extended by 30 to 45 days on average, with considerable rainfall in the targeted locations. But what that rain actually does, you must understand, in military operations, when it's raining, we can go in the Second World War. Let's go talk about snow and the mud and the rain and the storms, all shapes, sizes, and forms. When Germany invaded Russia, 22nd of June 1941, famous Operation Barbarossa, they considered they're gonna conquer the Russia between the 6 to 8 weeks while before the rainfall. However, that didn't happen. Germans in August and September experienced the first rain, which was considerably huge amount. And now suddenly have the military which can't move. Even the soldiers can't walk because the mud was everywhere. Now imagine now this happened in Vietnam, where you already have a wet rainy season, but you extend for 30 to 45 days on average, and you pouring that rain continuously. Soldiers cannot move, trucks cannot move. So the truck traffic was suspended because to the continued rain. That is a fact, and the operation was declared a success. The CIA and then Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, decided on a chemical weather manipulation program in Southeast Asia without consulting United Nations. Why should be? We are America. Dr. Donald Horing, the United States President's approved science and technology advisor and former member of the nuclear weapons development team, started the whole thing with a simple experiment. Remember this name, Dr. Donald Horing. Rain-soaked segments of the Viet Cong Army communication logistical lines, as well as the parts of the tunnels used by Vietnamese combatants for supplies and movement. The operation's short-term impact, which could not have a major impact on the course of the war, was it failure. Why? Because ordinary bulldozers were far less expensive and more efficient for the same job. However, history has it all. Unlike other conspiracy theories, none of this was concealed. Nothing was concealed. It's actually been publicized. Scientists have been investigating Arctic disturbance and its influence on the climate since 1930s. Only the Americans choose to try it in practice after finding silver iodide's activity in 1946. And we know what happened in 1946. Cold War started. That's correct. During the Cold War, but also before it, the United USSR, Soyuz, Sovietsky Socialistic Republic, conducted extensive research in this area and was far ahead of other countries, if not militarily, then economically. Techniques to avoid hail formation, for example, were created and are currently used in agriculture in the Caucasus, Moldova, and Central Asia, particularly to safeguard grapes and cotton. You must understand that such military initiatives were developed by Soviet research in order to impair the electronic and optical tracking equipment of the time due to adverse weather. Now, whatever they developed during the Cold War was, you must put in storage, because it was being done to conceal, deceive, and hide things. In a war, you can't do these things because you need to use them, but you make it your enemy to guess more. So that's what the Russians did, to guess, make the Americans and NATO guess. Simply defined, these devices were created with the intention of blinding the opponent by dispersing particles in the atmosphere that form the curtain, such as opaque crystalline fog. Alternatively, they manipulated the environment and improved atmospheric conditions to allow their own radio waves to flow more freely. Finally, because it was learned how fog crystals at the freezing temperatures and how to reduce the threat to civil aviation in the far north, the result was economic. So from something what was military operation becomes quite good for civilian aviation. Let me talk about TV show now. TV show called Stormfury. Stormfury is a TV show. However, all of the above is scientific and technological routine that most conspiracy theorists are disinterested in. Now, dealing with typhoons, on the other hand, is already far more exciting. However, few people realize that this was attempted by both sides of the Cold War at the same time. The Americans tested on their own country because typhoons are often there and no one paid notice, and the Soviet Union worked on research and testing them in Cuba and Vietnam. The Americans believed that it was sufficient to destroy any piece of the cloud in certain location, modify the cloud's energy balance, and change the path and direction of the typhoon. Who will say that? The goal for US scientists was not to launch a strike on certain fog areas, but to calculate precisely which way the storm would turn next. Well, what does that mean? The project proved impractical even with the Pentagon's supercomputers at the time, and the Stormfury program was gradually phased out after 1980 in favor of the Star Wars. However, some amateurs and enthusiasts were so captivated with Hollywood that they achieved great results there. In the Soviet Union, on the other hand, people thought differently. They wanted to find a typhoon weak point so they could change its direction and strength. Using that approach, Russians or Soviets scientists advanced and discovered how to shape typhoon forms, giving them some control over them. However, that is only one of the Soviet Union achievements, and the typhoon offers no remedy. However, the key concern, as it was in the United States during Operation Popeye, was expense. That is very expensive exercise. Very expensive. It takes unfathomable amounts of energy to create a typhoon powerful enough to demolish a big modern metropolis for military purposes. Such technology is simply not available now. Well, that's the end of narrative. Or maybe not. Let's go talk now about conspiracy and how government hides something. Does the government hide something? Prior to the 1980s, the world was entertained by the wide range of hoaxes perpetrated by the governments and secret agencies of the Soviet Union, United States, and few other countries, including United Kingdom, Canada, and South Africa. Psychics, super soldiers, and racial plagues in South Africa, which were supposed to be viruses that only plagued the Zulu tribe, were amongst them. Something else coming: alien intelligence and weapons such as ion, seismic, and climate change should never be mentioned. That being said, the turning point was a new wave of scientific and technological developments, and most of the exotic programs were gradually forgotten, or at least we've been told. Many years later, both Russia and George W. Bush were deemed responsible for the devastation caused by Hurricane Katrina in Louisiana. Barack Obama was blamed with ordering Hurricane Sandy just a week before the election. According to one version, Governor Schwarzenegger ordered California to go through a drought so that the wealthiest state in the country could get federal subsidies. Americans may have started sending hurricanes to Panama and Nicaragua as early 1969. If this is true, former Iranian President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad should be added to the list because he openly blamed Washington for the country's 30-year drought. Ironically, a heavy rainstorm hit Tehran just as he finished his speech. Is that true, or this is coincidence? So Iranian President Mahmoud says 30 years is a drought, that is a Washington fault. And before he finishes his speech, Tehran is being obliterated by the rain. Interesting enough. Let's go talk about another conspiracy theory, which everybody can Google it, you can find. It's called HAARP. The majority of theories continue to center on American HAARP system, a huge high-frequency antenna system built in Alaska in 1997. The U.S. Defense Advanced Study Projects Agency, called DARPA, Defense Advanced Study Projects Agency, DARPA, which assists the U.S. in understanding anything unknown, has officially directed to do study on the ionosphere and atmosphere. Nonetheless, the research he's created produced no helpful results, and it was very expensive. However, the U.S. Air Force shuttered the Alaska Center in 2014, stating that they will instead develop other techniques for ionospheric research and monitoring. However, they did not specify which. DARPA as well canceled the remaining program and assistance offered to the facility that summer, and the entire complex was transferred to the University of Alaska a year later and no longer performs military responsibilities. At least we have been told. In any case, conspiracy theories continue to blame the complex antenna for the advent of unusual diseases, accidents, and disasters. Now, I want you to pay attention. Facility already exists, it's being built. Some programs has been run, some type of campaigns has been run, some research has been run over there. And when you give to the university, well, they're going to use it, obviously. They're going to start doing on their way, not like a military. They're going to use it their way. And as well, with the university, there comes the private contractors, right? So corporations can hire that place as well. Now, there are two other comparable molecules with much less energy. They are in northern Norway, near Tromsø and Longyearbyen. The secrecy of these facilities has given rise to numerous rumors. A forerunner to the HAARP facility was also decommissioned in the same city in Alaska 2009, and another one has been rebuilt way in Puerto Rico. Russia has two ionospheric research facilities, but they utilize significantly less energy than those in Norway. Both are operational. It's called Shura. The project in Nizhny Novgorod regions appears scary in the same way that HAARP does, and another is under construction at the Siberian Physical and Technical Institute in Tomsk. Finally, I want to share this with you to understand. Climate weapons could be considered urban legends, comparable to the American boogeyman or war of mutants in the Moscow subway. This is not to argue that having an active influence on the atmosphere is impossible. To be serious, advanced countries have a sophisticated environmental monitoring system in place. They are not only atmospheric and submarine activities, but also seismic activities. But using such weapons is simply impossible, since it makes no sense to generate challenges and expenses that outweigh the influence of such technologies on the battlefield. However, conspiracy theories will always exist, but the most important thing to remember is to investigate while also knowing the measure. Everything supernatural is actually natural. It just hasn't been explained yet. Nikola Tesla famously said. Feel free to subscribe, share, like, and comment. Let us know in the comment section below. Do you believe that there are such weapons which can control seismic movements? They can create the weather, droughts, rain, snow,